Hey, today we're gonna do some juggling. Okay, what you have to understand is that all this juggling is nothing else but just different patterns of the same basic moves, and these basic tosses we are going to learn today. All tosses can be divided into two groups: those done with open grip, like this, and those done with closed grip, like this. And in this episode we will consider both. First, let's begin with the closed grip. There is actually a great video by Gray Davidson where he explains most of the concept and tricks with this grip. So I really recommend you to watch his video because at least the English is better. Anyway, here I will briefly cover the same concepts. So let's consider the tosses with closed grip. Again, there are two types of such tosses. Those that are done between one hand and another, like that. And those that are that when the same hand actually throws and catches the fan. So first exercise is very simple. Just hold it like this, release it and catch it here. Release it there and try to catch it there. So ideally fan should fly like this. So kind of like that. What's important to understand here that I don't use my wrist to throw the fan like this. It's completely wrong. You have to rather use your shoulder and your elbow, in fact. So I'm doing something like this here. Well, maybe I add a little bit, but just a little bit, because most of the energy comes from you know, this kind of angular movement here. The second type of the move is when you throw it with one hand and catch it with the other hand, like this. So, and again, there are two types of this move. One that is kind of going inside, also called anti-spin, because fan is kind of going with in anti-spin, and outside, or spin, when fan is going like this. So the second exercise, or next two exercises, are like this. Just try to keep your hands in the same places in space. Don't move it. And then throw it like this and catch. And then to the other hand. Repeat it many, many times. Until you can actually keep your hands in exactly the same positions in space and just throw between one and another. The second exercise, the same thing, but with spin throw. Here it's important to understand that when I catch, I actually still keep the close grip. That is, I don't catch it like this. I have to catch it like this. For this, I have to do this kind of a bit complicated move. So it's maybe a bit difficult. So you have to practice it more, basically. Try to practice it both ways until you kind of really can do it really well. Once you've mastered these basic tosses, the first and easiest trick to learn would be this. So now take two fans, throw one of them, change the hand and catch it with the other hand. Once again, I throw one, change the hand and catch it with the other hand, like this. Try to do it both ways. Yeah. And you can also try to do it outside or in spin. That is, if you do it quick enough, you can have this kind of shower, or this kind of anti-spin shower. That's pretty easy, just try it. Next example is for the tosses from one hand to another. Take both fans, put your arms like this, maybe, and fix your hands in some points in space. But make sure that one of your hands is actually a bit in front, the other is a bit closer to you. Then just toss it simultaneously and catch it, like this. Just try it. It's really quite basic move. I mean, you don't need to be pro to do it actually. Once you master that, well, you can also try opposite, I mean the outside. But it's quite difficult. In fact, this inside one is much easier. So first, once you learn this one, try to do it with shifted face. That is, first you throw one, then another, like this. One, another. One, another. try to practice it starting with each of your hand. For example, right, left, or left, right, because you will need it for free fan juggling or even complicated tricks. Once again, what's important here that this one flies somewhat like that, while this one starts from outside. So every time the fan that starts second kind of starts from outside. Outside in the sense that it's farther from me than the first fan. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, it is generally assumed that when you kind of do some tosses or juggling, you have to look up and don't really try to follow each fan. Just try to, spot it with your peripheral view, like like that maybe. It is much better for your future more complicated tricks. Here you have to understand one important aspect, is that many people actually throw it with their wrist, something like this. It's not correct. You really have to use your elbow and a bit of your shoulder. In general, the move is like this. Maybe I add a little bit of control with my wrist, but mostly the movement goes from my elbow, like this. So, use your elbow. And finally, what's great about these tosses is that you can actually combine them pretty randomly. For example, I can start with this one, but then do something like this. You can check with Great Dad's tutorial. And then, I don't know, I can do this inside, outside, then some kind of the same, the outside, like this for example, and then again inside, outside. So I can do pretty much what I want and combine them in any in any sequence you can think of. So that's why I advise you to work more about the very basic moves like that. And then once you learn that, it will be really easy for you to master all more complicated stuff. The second part of this lesson is about tosses with an open grip. In fact, there's only one toss, but it's more complicated, more advanced, but at the same time it helps you to do much more difficult and more good-looking tricks. The basic toss looks like this. You keep it on your hand, it's pressed on the fingers, I would say, rather than the palm, here. And you just toss it from the one hand to another. Here I have to tell you the secret right away. I don't coach it by the handle. It's very difficult, especially when you look up and you juggle free fans and you have to coach it somewhere there blindly. It's nearly impossible to coach it like this. You rather grab the space around where you think the fan is going to land, and eventually you grab the fan, and then it just glides down to the fingers. It's a bit like this. So to practice this stuff, I advise you to do this exercise. You just look up and throw it from one hand to another and coach it like this. Sometimes I don't even go back to the handle, and especially when I do the free fan, I just keep it like this, and I can do it this way. Just try it. When I use it for free fan juggling, it looks like this. Pay attention on how exactly I coach each fan. So. Another common use of this open grip toss is to throw the fan behind your head and coach it like this. Here again, I don't really have time to spot the handle and coach exactly the handle. That's why I have to use this trick. With two fans, it looks like this. I actually have the second fan in my other hand, so I have to take a time to change the hand, so it looks like this. I throw it, change the hand, and coach. Again. Don't change the hand and coach. That's why, again, you see I don't have the time, so that's why I use this kind of trick. This is a more complicated move, but again, you have to practice it a lot. In fact, I've been practicing it for quite a while. One great thing about the grips here, that every time you coach, you can actually choose which way you coach, or you coach with the closed grip, or you can do it with open grip. So this way you can change the family of the moves that you are going to do. For example, I'm doing something with closed grip like this, some shower. But then at the same time I can touch with open grip and continue with open grip, and then to do something like that. But then I can continue with the the close grip. So you can easily change it as you do your combination. So just try to learn some basic tosses from one hand to another, for example, and then try to combine them. Do them at the same time or just one after another, and you will discover some interesting tricks for yourself. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check my main channel and also the channel of my music. If you didn't subscribe to this channel, please do it if you plan to follow these lessons. By the way, I wanted to ask you if you have some questions or ideas for the next lessons. Just write it in the comments or somewhere, and I will consider it to be the subject, for the next episode. See you.